let's bring in Simon Rosenberg, a former advisor to President Clinton, a frequent guest on the Fox News channel, but you and I, Simon, have never sparred before, have we?
It's good to be here. It's good to be here.
Great. Now then, I do think I can make a case that a second Obama term means that he will get his way and tax the rich. I don't think you'll dispute that, will you?
No.
Okay. And how much of a tax increase on the rich will it be?
Look, I think all these things are going to have to be negotiated with the Democrats in the Senate and John Boehner's team in the House. I don't think he has the power to wave his magic wand, but he's been very clear about his economic plans going all the way back to 2007. Yep. It's a balanced approach, right, that pays down on the deficit over time, raises taxes on wealthy people, but leaves money to make the needed investments in things like education and infrastructure that create growth.
Now, how about spending cuts? I think they will be in package deal, but again, this is my opinion. Any spending cuts, I think, would take place way in the distant future. There would be promises of cuts way down there, not immediate cuts. So you would get immediate tax increases and distant spending cuts. What do you say?
I would be surprised if that were the case. Remember, the president in the debt ceiling deal last year agreed to cut $1 trillion over 10 years in spending. That already happened. Mitt Romney attacked the president for cutting $716 billion out of Medicare. Remember, the only person who's reformed an entitlement program in America is Barack Obama.
But those cuts...
let me finish. Those are cuts.
They were.
No, but those are cuts. No, but the $1 trillion was $100 billion a year starting immediately over 10 years. That's not true. They're out years. And on the Medicare thing, it was real... tens of millions of dollars of ads are run against the president for cutting Medicare by $716 billion. So he's already proven he's willing to take spending cuts in order to get the deficit down. And I would argue that his plan for deficit reduction was much more realistic than anything that Mitt Romney proposed over this last campaign. So I think there's a lot of room to work with, and the Democrats are going to insist on defense cuts, something the Republicans don't want. And I think that's going to be an area of contention over the next few months.
So defense cuts for sure, tax increases for sure. One more point before Charles jumps in on this. His head's about to explode, by the way.
That's okay.
If you look at the... No, it's not. If you look at the Office of Management of Budget, their look at the president's economic plan says we will have $20 trillion in total debt in the year 2016. In other words, an extra $1 trillion each and every year. You're not going to contest the OMB's own figures now, are you?
No, but I also think that that's unacceptable. The president said last night that more has to be done to reduce the deficit, while also making sure that the economy is growing. One thing we have now that we didn't have is the economy is growing, right? There's enormously positive economic signs. Consumer confidence is at a 30-year high in some polls.
Enormously positive. Enormously positive.
And we've seen the housing market finally, both housing values and housing starts.
Wait a second, Simon. I'm going to let Charles know. But wait a second. Sure. You cannot say that the signs are enormously positive. Charles.
Yeah,
I said consumer confidence.
You guys won. You won. You don't have to keep. You don't have to keep campaigning. You won. It's not enormous. This morning, the jobs number, the job openings number came out at a 5-month low. The GDP at 2% probably be revised to less than 2%. Let's not lie about this. Here's the thing, though. What is compromise? Saying we want defense cuts and to tax people, small business owners? Where's the goodies for the 48.5% of the population that doesn't want this? Where do they get something out of the deal?
Look, there are many ways that we can reduce the deficit. There are 3 things, though, that we have to do to make, just based on math, to reduce the deficit over the next 10 years. We're going to have to reform Medicare. We're going to have to cut defense. We're going to have to raise revenue. If we don't do all 3 of those things, then we're not going to make a significant...
Let me just jump in 1 second, Simon. You guys, everyone says that, but what happens is you reform Medicare on a program that kicks in 20 years from now, but we cut defense spending tomorrow. I mean, people know that game. It's been used. It's been tried. And you know what? A couple of Republican presidents fell for that. I don't think that this House is going to go for it.
Well, we'll see. I mean, I think that the Democrats have shown that they're willing to do the 3 hard things that are needed to reduce the deficit, and the Republicans have shown they're unwilling to do any of the 3 hard things that are needed to reduce the deficit. And look, I worked for Bill Clinton, right? When we came into the White House, we had huge deficits. We turned them into surpluses. George Bush turns huge surpluses into huge deficits.
Oh.
It's been the Democrats. It's been the Democrats who've been the fiscally responsible party.
Maybe we can get. Maybe you're going to see.
You're going to see progress made on this in the next few months.
Hold on a second, Sandra.
Get a stock market
Simon, bottom line, the market's down 250 points as we now face the reality that we face the fiscal cliff at the end of this year. What is your best guess? Because the markets are interpreting bad news lies ahead. What is your forecast?
Well, what's interesting about the fiscal cliff is that it's actually, I think, misnamed. It's fiscal salvation, right? I mean, it reduces the deficit by huge numbers, but it's an economic cliff. It's bad for the economy, right? It could push us back into a recession. And so I think that the thing that we've got to, I think the two parties have the ability in the next 6 months, I don't know that it's going to happen in the next 6 weeks, to find an interim step that rolls this over while they try to negotiate a bigger deal. Let's hope that if I come back here in April or May, right, we're celebrating a grand bargain between the two parties where we've made substantial progress in reducing the deficit while making the needed investments to grow the economy in the out years.
All right. We've reached a partial agreement that taxes will go up and the debt will go up and that spending will be cut at some point. I think there's a partial agreement there, Simon. That's progress. All right.
I don't know. By the way, the debt is 20% lower this year than it was last year. I don't agree that there's going to be more debt in the way that you're describing.
OMB figures. It is not my figures.
It's 20% lower this year than it was last year. It's getting better. It's getting better. It's getting better, Stuart. It's getting better.
OMB, $1 trillion. You're talking about the deficit. I'm talking about the accumulated debt.
I understand.
20 trillion in 2016. Okay? Simon, it was fun. Come and see us again. Thanks very much, sir.
Thank you.
Mitt Romney's loss should send a clear message.